I missed you guys. A lot of different stuff has happened. What about Jeff Garland's Arsenio robe? Nice choice. Guys, it's time to present the Golden Eddie Award. The Golden is a lot better than the other. It's not paper, it's not tin, it's not aluminum. This is the Golden Eddie, okay? So get your shit together, everybody. Pull your pants up and let's focus. To present the Golden Eddie to Frank Marshall, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Chris Pratt.
What can I say about Mr. Marshall other than I am his biggest fan? Whether it be his work on films like The Princess Diaries, Pretty Woman, or iconic TV shows such as Laverne and Shirley. I mean, Laverne and Shirley, for crying out. What's that? Pardon? That's Gary Marshall? Fuck. Uh-oh. No, that makes sense. Huh. Okay. So we'll just take it from the top, edit that part out. No, this is a live show for editors. Okay. That's a contradiction. I had a lot of Laverne and Shirley material I was gonna do. So, what can I say about the great Frank Marshall? Well, I can tell you that he does not have a sister named Penny. Right? I'm obviously kidding. Everybody in this room knows Frank. He is truly a pillar in the Hollywood community. He's covered everything from directing to acting. Did you know that he played Tourist in Raiders of the Lost Ark? Thank you. Give it up for Frank. He was great as Tourist. As a producer, he has helped shape some of the most iconic films in history, and that is not an exaggeration. Seriously, I guarantee that everyone here tonight has not only seen one of the films he's been involved with, but you've also loved them as well. And from my experience, I can tell you, one of the most iconic films to me was Raiders of the Lost Ark. Yes. Now is when you put your hands together. But don't put them together to clap. Do it like this. And pray that one day you can make a movie like that. When I was older, it was Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And every day for months, I walked around saying things like, "You call him Dr. Jones." I would demand chilled monkey brains for dinner. Yeah, in my opinion, that is Frank's. That's your finest work. Nah, you know what? Raiders, Temple of Doom, and Back to the Future. That, yeah. For me in particular, that was my favorite one. I wanted a DeLorean very, very badly. Also, coincidentally, I was in a love triangle with my mom and dad. So the film really spoke to me. Those were his finest achievements. Now, actually, because there's the Bourne Identity movies. What? Yeah, you heard me. They were the coolest. And and of course, Gremlins and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. What am I saying? Goonies was your greatest movie ever. Goonies was your greatest movie ever. Down here, it's our time. It is our time down here. Goonies never say die. That is a fact. Guarantee no one in this room has ever heard a Goonie, let alone heard a Goonie say die. Okay. that's the list of films that Frank... well, I actually want to add The Sixth Sense to the list. Okay, now I'm going to go on. I See Dead People. That kid did see dead people, and it was awesome. And then there was... Remember the creepy guy with the things on his fingers? Warriors, come out and play. And yeah, you can clap at all of these because they're all amazing movies. Just like Inner Space, just like Poltergeist, which scared the crap out of me. There are too many incredible films to list. I could go on and on. And every film that I mention, you will not only remember watching them, but you'll remember falling in love with them. And, you know, I could say the same thing about Frank. Just like his films, from the moment you meet him, you not only like him, but his energy stays with you forever. And I had the privilege of working with him on the upcoming Jurassic World, and after working with him, I totally understand why these films are so great. Because Frank has this energy about him that is just good. It's just a good energy that is inspiring. And when you meet him, you think, wow, this guy is nice. He must be a real asshole. But it turns out he's not. He's a really nice guy. He's a good guy. There are good guys. And that to me, that's your biggest accomplishment. Wisdom, talent, creativeness, these are things that are crucial to make it in this business. But goodness, that's an added bonus. And it's what makes it so amazing. Another amazing aspect about you is that you surround yourself with people just like you. You call his office, every voice on the phone is friendly. His staff makes it seem like his energy is infectious. And when I'm talking to him, I feel this friendly, smiley, rainbow energy that fills me up and makes me want to be good, or gooder. That's pretty great when you're filming a movie with a giant man-eating dinosaur. That's why I love your films. They make us feel good. And now I know why. There's a little bit of Frank in each of those films. And that little bit is infectious. It gets into the camera crew, the actors, the directors, the editors, the caterers, not craft service, assholes. They were the worst. Take your cookie and go. It's like, is this a Frank Marshall movie? Guys, be nicer. All the people on your sets are infected with love for what they're creating and a love for you, Frank. And, you know, I'm up here to honor Frank, but it's me that is truly honored because I get to work with this incredible man, and the best part is I get to call him a friend. So now, please, enjoy this tribute to Frank Marshall's career.
Gigawatts! Tom, how am I going to generate that kind of power?
Bad. I'm just drawn that way.
I want my $200.
couldn't see him that night.
I see dead people.
Apollo 7 launch control. We're going to count down for Apollo 11. The flight to land the first men on the moon.
You are so real.
I am.
It is my honor and delight to present the Golden Eddie Filmmaker of the Year Award to Mr. Frank Marshall.
Thank you, and thank you, Chris. It was a real pleasure working with Chris this summer, and it's always a little disturbing to hear how much Goonies has crossed over and held on all this time. It happens all the time, but but I'm really thrilled to be here tonight because I do know what you do. And this award is really special to me. When I was a young student at UCLA, I didn't know what I wanted to be. So I started in engineering, then theater arts, and finally graduated in poli-sci because I thought I wanted to go to law school. I was lucky enough to be in the right place at the right time when I met Peter Bogdanovich, and he asked me to work on his first movie, Targets. When I asked him what he wanted me to do, he said, "I don't know, I've never made a movie before." So I just went over to his house and did whatever he needed, and that proved to be the best introduction to filmmaking one could ever hope for. Because it was being produced by Roger Corman, it was very low budget, and I got to dabble in every part of the production and fell in love with making movies. It was like a mini film school. I found locations, built sets, found set dressing, and even acted in one scene with Peter. And as Chris says, in looking back at that scene today, I think it's probably a good thing I fell in love with the other side of the camera. But it wasn't until my third picture with Peter that I discovered the real magic of movie making. And that was when the editor of What's Up Doc, Verna Fields, invited me into that dark and mysterious place that is known as the cutting room. Verna was a wonderful mentor to many young filmmakers in those days, and she took me under her wing and began to show me how the magic worked. We all called her Mother Cutter, and she was incredibly generous with her. It's a little different today, right? But back then, she was Mother Cutter. And she was incredibly generous with her time and expertise, and her cutting room became another classroom for me. And I found, as much as I liked the production process, that I was even more excited by post-production and how all the elements of picture, sound, and music came together. I was fascinated by how creative and inventive the editing process could be, and how problems that you thought were unsolvable during shooting could be solved with a little music or sound here and there, or just moving a few scenes around. Peter once told me that you really make 3 movies. There's the movie you write, the movie you shoot, and the movie you cut. Right? So the editor is the closer, and he or she ends up having the final impact on what ends up on the screen. As many of you know, Peter kind of likes to cut in the camera and was very specific about the cutting. And Verna often complained to me that he was so specific that she had nothing to do. But he'd always tell her that that wasn't really true, and on every picture she would solve at least one horrific problem brilliantly. On What's Up Doc, for example, at the Denver preview there was a scene that didn't get a laugh, and Peter was horrified. Verna said, well, maybe it's all too fast, and she moved one 24-frame shot forward by one cut, and magically at the next preview, it got a laugh. I think she pulled out that kind of crisis solution on every picture we all did together. At last year's dinner, Steven Spielberg said that he looked at the cutting room as the safe haven of second chances. And I quickly found out how right he was when I directed my first movie, Arachnophobia. Stephen was kind enough to loan me the legendary Michael Kahn, who is sitting right here with us tonight. Michael? He kind of became my father cutter, I guess. And he gave me those second chances over and over again. It was so reassuring every day to hear his voice tell me how good dailies were, or if he had suggestions for more coverage. He'd say things like, you got the steak, but now we need a little sizzle. So after lunch, I'd run back and get an insert of a spider's fangs digging into some actor's hand. But in the end, editing is all about the story, and we are all storytellers. We may write a good script and shoot some good scenes, but the movie doesn't get great until it gets to the cutting room. So I'd like to thank all the editors I've ever had the pleasure to work with for their inspiration and creativity and the comfort that they bring to the process. In particular, Michael Kahn, Tina Hirsch, Billy Goldenberg, Carol Littleton, Artie Schmidt, Ann Coates, Mark Fitzgerald, and last but certainly not least, Chris Roush, who's somewhere back here right now. And thank you to the American Cinema Editors for this wonderful award. Coming from all of you really makes this an exceptional honor. And finally, I would like to thank my wife, Kathy, who was my producing partner of many of these films and is now the queen of the galaxy far, far away, while continuing to be my life partner, and without whose love, support, and guidance I would not be standing before you tonight. So thank you very much for this terrific honor. Thanks.